Hey guys, welcome to Taste of Recovery, the podcast,
where we explore one's honest journey of surrender, willingness, acceptance, and courage.
I'm Alecia Spendlove.
And I'm Eden Sassoon.
Please join us every week for authentic and raw conversations with inspiring people in recovery.
We invite you and our guests to get real because the disease of addiction does not discriminate.
Oh, no, it doesn't. And we go through so many emotions. We laugh, we cry, we pray.
So get ready for a taste of recovery.
Anything but reality, really, I would say, is my drug of choice. I don't like to be in reality.
Hello, all. Please welcome Seth to the podcast.
Enjoy his taste of recovery.
Yeah, like that one person that never gave up on you, So I owe her everything. I'm so grateful.
So sitting here and we're moms talking about your mother and from the perspective of she never gave up on you, like how bad was it? Where were you at? It just...
like when you're a young kid, and so my mom was a single mom and I was an only child for 13 years before she had my sister. So for the most part, it was just me and her for like most of my life, right? Like the formative years of my life, it was just me and her against the world. We like slept in a studio apartment in the same bed until I was like 8, Yeah, just like, I just remember her being just like a fierce, showing up to school, when I would get suspended, and she would like show up and be like, you're not putting my kid on Prozac. Like, he doesn't need that. You guys just need to find a different way to connect to him, Cause at that time, like when you're in like 3rd grade, 4th grade, the schools, like the school psychiatrist just wants to like, prescribe you Prozac and Ritalin and anything really. And like, mom's just like, no, you guys need to figure out a way to connect to him. My child doesn't have learning disabilities. And at the time, when I think back to it, I was in special education classes. And so I was in special ed, but like my state scores would always be like in the 95th percentile. And so I just remember, like my guidance counselors being like, I don't understand how you have such high grades, but it was just because I had behavior problems. I like would act out. I would get bored and I thought I was a know-it-all, right?
Are these behavior problems or more like on the emotional side? Cause your IQ, you were obviously an intelligent.
Yeah. I think it was mostly just like
a bad attitude.
Not even a bad attitude, just like, very know-it-all with the teachers. Like, you guys don't know anything. Like, I know the answer. I watched this, 2020 special on Dateline or whatever. Like, I know this. And so, yeah, they just didn't know what to do with me. And my mom was just like, figure it out. Like, you're not putting my kid on Prozac. And so I'm really grateful for that. Eventually I ended up, I remember being like the only kid in special ed classes in like 4th grade who I got mainstreamed for like English and math. So I would have to go take English and math classes with the regular kids. And so.
Was it hard? I mean, I was in special ed and I was happy there.
For me, I was just bored. I was just, and also I felt like it was like more of a, economic status thing too, right? Like, cause most of the kids in my class were kids that lived in my neighborhood. I grew up in the project. So like, it's like out of the 8 of us, all 8 of us lived in the same building, kind of, you know what I'm saying? So it was like we went to school on on the same bus or whatever. And yeah, so when I got mainstream, that's when I like started to like do the course correction, like for myself, like the personal, like, oh, I realized that I actually have more power than I thought. And like, I can change the direction of this ship kind of thing. And so, yeah, I just started to excel, in school. And then by like, by high school, junior high school and high school, I was like in all honors classes, took a bunch of APs. And it's funny, in high school, me and my friends, we were like potheads, obviously. And so like, I think I had my first like joint at like 12. And my first drink was actually when I was like 7. That was down. So during the summer times, my dad was in prison for most of my childhood. And when he came home from prison, there was like a short spell when he got home from prison. And he like would take me to see all his side of the family. So we would drive from New York to South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and we would just do like the family tour or whatever. We were driving down North Carolina. We made it to Maryland, and like the state troopers in Maryland don't play. So my dad drinking driving his 95 Saab, drinking his 40, gets pulled over, car smells like weed. He gets taken into the police station, and my mom had to wait in the police station for like 10 hours, almost anywhere between 20 and 14 hours for my mom to come down from New York to pick me up. And so I remember stories like that. I remember like, okay, alcoholism is kind of in the family. But yeah, on one of those trips that we actually did make it down south, like I just remember sitting around the campfire with him, my grandfather, and like my uncles, and like wanting to like fit in with them, right? Like wanting to make them proud. I'm queer, proud queer Black man. But yeah, just being like a young queer kid and like just wanting to like, check that that macho box, like, oh, I can be like one of the boys, like I can fit in with my granddad and my dad. So yeah, I had my first drink of 151 rum and I was like 7, hated it, puked everywhere, and then told myself I would never drink again, right? But then fast forward to when I was like 12, 13, hanging out with, again, the kids at school, wanting to fit in. I'd like remember, smoking weed and like drink, like, and not even weed really, like we were so like, we were just so fast. Like we wanted, like we would like roll grass in like little brown paper bag, like act like we're smoking blunts or whatever. We were just smoking grass, like craziness. So like I feel like I had the allergy of addiction way before I even like took that first drink or drug. But like just growing up with that, that desire to want to be a part of, I think is kind of the through line of my addiction. Like just, I believe there's like a line like about anxious apartness, right? Like I want to have this anxiety to be a part of, but I also want to like be left alone. Like it's like
I suffer from the same thing.
Yeah. Everyone hates me, but I want everyone to like me,
Me three. I feel the same way.
I love you. Don't talk to me. Why aren't you calling me?
Exactly.
How do you feel right now?
I actually feel really good with my life. I live in gratitude today. Like I have so much to be grateful for, right? Like I think we were started this conversation off about my mother and like what did that look like, just the fact that I have a relationship with her where we talk every day is just like the greatest gift of my sobriety, of my recovery. It's just like I have my family back in my life. My little sister calls me and this is somebody who, at one point said, don't ever call me again. Right. Cause I had burned the bridge that many times and like, I called one too many times, like, hey, can you send me some money? Hey, I just need $20. Like my little sister, right? Like I'm the, the brother who's 13 years older than her, like calling her, who's like trying to get through college, trying to get through school, and just like putting the weight of my addiction on to all of them, them sitting there watching my mom cry, cause she doesn't know if she's gonna get that phone call saying like her son's dead, right? So yeah, just like towards the end of my using, I say my mom is my hero. Like this story is kind of crazy. Like I just remember, I think this was the first time that I realized that like, okay, like I'm hurting people, because before I would say like, oh, I'm not hurting anybody. I'm just, I'm just a weekend warrior, or I'm just, I don't bring any drugs or alcohol home. Like I don't, I show up for Thanksgiving. I'm not a mess, like all those things. But, there would be months at a time where I wouldn't show up, or like I would sell. The first thing I would sell when I would start getting high is like my cell phone. I would like give it to the highest bidder in the spot. Like whoever can give me the most money for this phone so I can continue to, keep the party going. Like let's do it. Also, it's perfect because now nobody can contact me. And now, I can just like disappear off the face of the earth for like the next 3 months. And, eventually, like, when the party's over, cause it's always over. And like,
what did that look like when you disappeared?
Oh, when I disappeared, it would look like being in someone's home or apartment for about a week and doing all the shenanigans, right, that we do when we get high. And then finding somebody during that time to then leave with and then to continue the party, you know, like always finding the person that wants to continue the party, right? Like just going wherever the party's at. And so, yeah, just going from place to place for days on end, not eating, not showering, you know, the gay sex drug scene is like, it's all an illusion. It's like you think you look so hot because you're like skinny and you're like, you haven't eaten. And like, I'm 6'1" and I think I weigh like 160 pounds, you know, right now I'm like a healthy, like 190. Right. And like, so yeah, just like that whole, just going from place to place. I think the defining moment for me was somehow like the party was like, I knew the party was over and I knew that I had to like reach out and like I knew my mother's phone number by heart, right? So I just remember like getting, you know, a chance to call her or something and she found out where I was and like I totally forgot that I had like talked to her like a day or two before, like, hey, like you know, I need you or whatever like bat signal text message I sent, right? All of a sudden like I'm at this spot and I just hear bang, bang, bang on the door and like all of a sudden, like, they're like, you need to go out there. Your mother's out there, you know, like at the dope spot, right?
Damn right she is. She's there.
She's making it hot. Like, you need to go, you know, before it's bad for all of us. And so I just remember getting in the car with her, and her like looking through the like rear view mirror and like I'm laying on her back seat, like hadn't eaten in weeks, you know, looked emaciated, and just the fear and like the tears in her eyes as she's looking at me in the rear view mirror and trying to like hand me a piece of like bagel through like the center console. Like just the demoralization, you know, just this is not what she like as a single mother worked 2 and 3 jobs to just make sure I had perfect teeth. Like you guys just like, you know, to make sure that like, you know, that I had every chance, you know, we don't get that many chances, but the fact that like she like literally fought tooth and nail to give me every chance she could at a good life. And like, this is what I'm doing with it. And yeah, like that, all that like flashed before my eyes when I like seen her face, like just not even her whole face, but just her eyes in the rearview mirror.
So you were able to, in that moment, be like, oh shit, what am I doing here?
Yeah, like, you know, like,
it's usually like in retrospect, you know, you can be like, oh, I remember that moment, but you actually were present for it.
I think it snapped me out of like, you know, coming down from a, you know, 2-month crack binge, like, you know, like you're kind of so high all the time that like, not like, you just never want to come down. But that was just like a sobering moment, just seeing her eyes. And, yeah, like, you know, I just remember I laid on her. So at this point in my addiction, like I couldn't come home. You know, my sister wanted nothing to do with me. My little brother, who's like 15 years younger than me, didn't want anything to do with me. And my mom just not knowing what to do, right? Like I had been to rehab before. Like my first rehab stint was at 23. So I had a sugar daddy who was like, I'm tired of paying, you know, for you and your drugs and your dog. And like, you need to feed your own dog. Like, so you need to go get help. And so I went to my first rehab at 23. But, yeah, like at that point, I'm laying on my mom's like living room floor. Cause that was the only room that I could go in at that time. Like I couldn't go upstairs. I couldn't go really anywhere, but she's like, you need to stay in this living room. Like the bathroom's right there. You get up to eat, like that's it. I just remember like we were waiting for a rehab bed to open up. And I had to wait the weekend. And so she literally like laid there with me on the floor for that whole weekend. And we just like watched Frankie and Grace and like laughed and like until the bed opened up. And so
I love Frankie and Grace.
We literally watched Frankie and Grace that whole weekend. And yeah. And then, but you know, what's wild is that like, I remember that as like being like, you would think that like, okay, like this guy's got it. Like it's the end, right? No, that wasn't enough. You know, that seeing that pain in her eyes wasn't enough to keep me sober. Like wasn't enough. It wasn't enough pain. Like, and I don't know what is enough pain. I don't know what the threshold for pain is. Like how much pain can you take, you know? I know now, like in recovery, like my pain threshold is like really low. Like the moment I'm in pain, I'm like, okay, where are those tools that I like learned? Like, let me like get out of this pain as soon as possible. But back then, yeah, like it was just like my grandmother's tears didn't keep me sober. You know, her begging me to go into treatment didn't, you know, I went to treatment, came out, did the same thing all over again. You know, I'm a firm believer of it takes what it takes. I don't know what happened this time that it stuck for me.
When was the moment when it hit you and you just had a fighting chance?
Honestly, it's all divine, right? Like it's like that divine intervention. My last day using looked like me running around Manhattan, doing the same song and dance, you know, house to house, apartment to apartment, like literally going to the ends of the earth to find my drug. At the time I was living in Bushwick. So, you know, I remember just going out to Coney Island, like just to like get a date and like get some more drugs, you know, like I think this guy's going to have some drugs. Like, let me just go and like, and of course, putting myself through the whole demoralizing, you know, song and dance, like letting them being, you know, using and then also being used, right? It's like this thing that we do. It's like, I'm going to use you to get what I want. But so then obviously you're using me to get what you want. So my sober day is February 14th. So this is like January. I'm, you know, at this point exhausted all other options in New York to continue the party. And ended up like meeting a guy on one of the apps. Like, you know, he's like, hey, you should come up here. Like, the stuff up here is really good. Like, you'd love it. And so, you know, at this point I was just like, okay, what else? I have nothing else going on. I have nothing else. Like, you know, I haven't paid my rent in 2 months. I'm about to get evicted. You know, just let's keep the party going. He bought me a plane ticket up to Buffalo in the middle of January, like during a nor'easter. And I was too busy getting high the night before that I missed the flight. And so later that afternoon, he's like, you know, why didn't you get on the flight? And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I missed it. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to buy you a train ticket from Penn Station. And so I ended up going up to Penn Station, you know, getting high around the area, you know, for a couple of hours till the train ticket, and then ended up getting on this train, getting up to Buffalo during the middle of a nor'easter. And I was wearing a Burberry trench coat because I thought I was cute. Meanwhile, I am a full-blown crackhead meth head, like, you know, just full-blown. And I was wearing Birkenstocks and a pair of sweatpants and a t-shirt. And not the Burberry coat, trench coat with like the lining, like the actual spring one. And so I'm freezing. I get off this train, you know, it was a 5-hour train ride from the city up to Buffalo. And I meet this guy. He picks me up at the train station. We proceed to get high for about 45 minutes. And then he goes, oh, I actually have to go to work, so you have to leave now.
Did he put you back on the train?
No, out of his house, like in the middle of a nor'easter. And like, that's the extent that my using took me, right? It takes me to these places where like I'm in these situations where I'm like, how the hell did I get here? Like Britney Spears, oops, I did it again. Like, you know, please, somebody, something, save me, right? But that's the normal person's probably reaction to that. Well, a normal person probably wouldn't even be in that situation, right. But my best thinking was, okay, get back on the same website and see who lives here in Buffalo and go get high with them.
It's actually not a dumb idea.
and so, yeah, just like going from place to place and like ended up spending the entire month of January in Buffalo, going from place to place. Like luckily one of the, I don't know how many guys I met up there during that time, but one of them was like, you need more different clothes. Like, it's freezing up here. Like, you can't be walking around like this. Like, so we went to Walmart, got me some good Buffalo lumberjack clothes. You know, I had like plaid lumberjack shirts and boots and gloves and stuff. And that just kept the party going for even longer. You know?
Wait, so what I hear is obviously not just the drugs were your addiction, but men.
Oh, yeah. It's like oh my God.
Yeah.
My first sponsor said, Seth, your kryptonite is Henry, Haagen-Dazs, and Hennessy. And so the 3 H's. And so I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Like anything but reality, really, I would say is my drug of choice. Like, I don't like to be in reality. That's going back to my childhood. Like, reading was like my first addiction. Just escaping, wanting to escape, wanting to be somewhere else, wanting to be someone else. Like in the story I talked about earlier, like I mentioned that, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Family Matters, the Steve Urkel show from back in the day.
I love
like,
him.
I wanted to be Steve. Like, I thought that, like, when I got high, it was like stepping into that machine that turned him into, like, the fine Stefan Urkel. Like, that's what I thought, you know, that's what using was for me. It was just like a redo. Like, God, you got it wrong. Like, let me take this substance to, like, fix what I think is wrong.
And this was all in January.
This was all in January.
Yeah, the month before you got sober.
Yes. And so then how that ended was, you know, I got one last, you know, ticket from my mom. She's like, if you do not get on this train, do not ever call us again. Do not, you know, and I'm sure, like, how heartbreaking that was for her to do, right? You know, like, don't ever call my phone again. Like, like, so I had relapsed during this time, like in November prior to this January, like that November, I just got 2 years, and 2 days after my 2-year anniversary, because I wasn't being honest, I, you know, was still having these outside issues with men. I still was, you know, I thought I could be in spiritual solution, and then also, like, still do things on the side, like in the dark or whatever.
He had reservations.
And then, but then I didn't have no mental defense, right? I didn't have that mental defense against that person, that one good looking man who had the floor to ceiling windows apartment, like the penthouse apartment. And I was just like, oh, this is like, I can get high like this. This is amazing. Right. I ended up using again. And so from November to February 14th, I was out there. But during that time, I had people, you know, I had so many people that, like, so many relationships that I had made while I was in spiritual solution that, they wouldn't let me go. Like, they wouldn't, like, they were still calling. They were still looking for me. They were still showing up to my apartment because I hadn't, like, answered any phone calls. And, yeah, they were just like, we got you. Like, please go get some help. And, like, yeah, I'm just really grateful for, like, the people in the program that, like, didn't, you know, give up on me. Just like my mom, you know, like, that's the thing I have, like, that's why I kept saying it's divine, you know, because it's like I had these angels at every corner in my journey, just being, and not pushy and not, like, you know, judgy, but just like, hey, you know, we're here, you know, hey, like, we love you, hey. And, like, in a time where I couldn't even love myself, right? Like, I was just out here doing whatever with whoever. And yet, like, these people, just these angels, guardian angels, just came by. And yeah, so my last day using, I was out there. I had made it back to the city off of that ticket that my mom said, hey, if you don't get on this train, don't ever call me. Made it back to the city. Still wasn't done.
Woo!
Still wasn't done.
For how long?
This one only lasted 48 hours, luckily.
You're lucky to be alive.
Got so bad that I, you know, the, you know, drug-induced psychosis, like, now I'm running around New York City like a crazy person, you know. I take that back. I was behaving like myself. I was, you know, I joke and I say, like, you know, I need to, like, start a t-shirt line that says, like, it wasn't Seth, it was the meth, like, you know, because I was just, and ended up having, like, guns pulled out on me, you know, like, sleeping in a homeless tent with somebody off the West Side Highway, like, to any, like, walking around New York City in the middle of a snowstorm with sneakers with a hole in it.
And all this in your mind was okay and normal. or expected, or how were you feeling? Do you remember?
There were certain things that that I kept thinking about. Like my mom's birthday is December 25th, right? So I was thinking about like how I just missed her 50th birthday. And like, I was thinking about, well, my sister's birthday is February 12th and I'm probably going to miss that too. And yeah, just like these important days that like were happening around the same time. I do remember thinking about those things. And so yeah, what ended up happening was I was walking around Midtown, and I don't know if you know Times Square, but like there's like all these billboards, and it was around the time that that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio came out, the Don't Look Up movie. And so I'm like walking around New York City, and I like look up at this billboard, and it's like, don't look up. And it's like flashing at me. And then all of a sudden I look back down, and I'm just, okay, I'm just going to walk around with my head down. And then I don't know for how long I walked around, but like at one point I remember picking my head up. And when I picked my head up, it was somebody standing there that I knew from Spiritual Solutions. Right? They were standing there, and they looked at me with tears in their eyes, and they said, baby, where are you going? Like, what are you doing? Where is your home? Like, why are you out here? And all I could do was just cry. And like, I say, I don't know. They were able to get me in contact with somebody that they knew that I was like close with during those 2 years that I had sober. And yeah, they called this person. This person was like, okay, bring him over. He put me in a cab. I made it to their house, and I've been sober ever since. Yeah, it's just, it's one of those things where I said it's divine, right? Divine intervention. So like, I wouldn't have stopped on my own. I needed a spiritual, divine intervention. Like, yes, everything I've done since then, like I can say is 98% God's will and then 2% mine, right? Like where I have to give some effort. I have to do some work. I have to do the work, right? And, you know, God takes care of the rest. And that's just been, you know, my experience this time around. And
how is this time different, obviously? And like really get into the
I realized that I was delusional. I thought I knew everything. And so this time around, I just been, you know, exploring, like, what if I don't know? What if I don't know what's coming tomorrow? Like, it's almost better that I don't know? Cause like, if I did know, I'd probably ruin it. Like, I probably would like try to put some, you know, spice in there, to zhuzh it up, or, you know, I try to put my own spin on it and then ruin the outcome. Right. And so I just been in this space of just like complete and total trust that whatever's happening is happening, you know, for some divine purpose. And if I can stay in that space of like, okay, everything I'm doing, if I can ask myself these two questions, am I helping someone? Or am I hurting someone? Am I helping, you know, my fellow, or am I hurting my fellow? Just keeping it into that like black and white, like, am I helping? Am I helping? Am I helping? Like, what am I doing that's, am I being of service? Like, you know, like for whatever reason, like I made it. And like my best friend who, you know, who I was getting high with right before I got sober, like she passed away while I was in rehab. And I'm sure it's due to the lifestyle because I wasn't home. I don't really know all of the details of it. I just remember that phone call. I called her the day I was going into treatment. And I was just like, I can't do this. Like they're trying to take me to this place. Like I don't. And she's just like, just go, Seth. She's like, you can't like do this. Like you don't. She's like, God wants more from you. Like God is calling you for more. Like you can't get high the way I get high. Like it doesn't work for you. Like stop, please. Like go get help. And then, you know, I come out and learn that she passed away. And so when I think about like, okay, God, like what did I'm not special. I'm just a human being. You know, I'm no more special than anybody else. And so I really like stay in that gratitude of like, thank you for, you know, thank you. Like that's the prayer. Thank you, period. Thank you, exclamation point. Thank you, exclamation point. Because yeah, like I shouldn't be here. Like you heard all the 9 lives. Like,
and what do you do one day at a time to be here, to be present, to say thank you?
I mean, LA is so yeah. So I did pull a geographic, right, to get like every corner of New York City was like, crime scene for me. And so like I heard a voice, like I seriously heard a voice that said, you should, like, when was the last time you were happy? Like, so I ended up coming out here to LA when I was like 17 for college. I went to American Musical Dramatic Academy, to pursue my acting career and, an entertainer. But yeah. And so I just remember asking myself, when was the last time you were truly happy? And the only thing that kept coming to my mind was when I was here pursuing my dreams. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to do that again. And people said I was crazy because I think I had like 6 months at the time. They were like, you're pulling a geographic, all the voices, right? But at this point in my sobriety, I had really like dialed in with like the God of my understanding. And I just knew that my God was going to take care of me. I just knew that I was going to work out. I had all of the faith. And like at that point, I was like, I almost died this last time. Like, I almost died a lot of times, but like I really felt the gravity and the weight of what I had just come out of. And so I was like, well, I have nothing to lose, right? Like I have to go. And so I came. I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't know where I was going to work. I just had like $2,000 saved to my name at that point. Cause during the 6 months that I was sober, like I was working and like my life was getting better. I was going, like I prioritized my program, went to made that the center of my life, and like beautiful, like, synchronistic things started happening. Like, I'm on the set of a TV show that like I couldn't believe that I was on, because I'm like, just 6 months ago I was like getting high watching this show, and here I am standing here on set like as a paid actor to be on this show. Something's up right now. I need to like work with this energy. And so, yeah, like I ended up just moving out here. Again, the same thing, just made my recovery like the center of my life. Like didn't have a car. So I was taking the bus to like a meeting over in Venice, a meeting up in Malibu. I went to the meeting up there, like just taking myself to all these different meetings, on a bus. The jobs I was working, I was, waking up at 4 a.m. to get there by 7. So I would have to wake up like 3-4 hours earlier just to get there on time, because I was taking 2 and 3 buses to get there, and just did that for like a year. And then eventually like somebody, was like, hey, like, have you ever thought about working in treatment and working in recovery? Like I heard your story the other day. Like, I think you would be really like helpful. And yeah, so that kind of just like took off. And then I've been here, like God's got me, I'm still here. I haven't like gone back home. Like I actually have a car now. Yeah, it's like those things that, like if you just trust and like take that next right action, I think. But to answer your question, I know that was a roundabout way of answering your question, but what I do today is I suit up and I show up no matter how I feel. Right? Because I can always pray, like I can always pray for God to change how I feel. Yeah, like I am in constant contact with this like power that's not me. I don't want to be the power and control anymore. Like I don't want the power. I just want to be useful. I want to be, kind, like all the characteristics of the people that helped me get here. Like I take all of them with me. Like I just remember, that person bought me a cup of coffee after that meeting, and when I didn't have it, now that like in LA, you drive to meetings, right? So like, I'm like, okay, I can take somebody to a meeting. I can go drive on the 405 on a Friday night, like over to this sober house in Venice to pick up some newcomers and take them all the way to the east side to a meeting, and sit 2 hours in traffic. Like I'm not too good for that. Like God gave me this car. Like, am I using it, to be of service? Right. And so, just putting myself in their shoes, just like that total, like unconditional positive regard for other people is, the thing that keeps me feeling like, okay, like I'm connected to something greater than myself. Like something is working in my life. The fact that I'm able to be useful to somebody else, like, cause not too long ago, I wasn't able to be useful to anybody. Like I didn't care about anybody. I didn't care about myself, And so, I pray, I show up for the things that are difficult. I remember like in the beginning, like when I first started getting sober, like all my problems were like so close to my face. Like I there was no space from them. They were like on me. Right. And now with like, you know, the sobriety I have today, it's like I'm a drone, and I'm able to like see all my problems down there. Like they're just there. And I'm able to be like, yeah, that's over there. That's over there. And then like, I'm able to like, you know, zoom out a little bit more. And then I see like, okay, that's my higher power. That's really like up there, like Pinocchio, like pulling the strings and like, you know, so it's like I have a different perspective now where I'm able to see that like, I'm just a small, like part of the cog in the machine. Like I
hear you. I hear you saying like powerless, like you're powerless, and like you just draw it. You kind of like pull out and watch it all, just like but yet you show up and suit up and show up and take action. And hey,
exactly, yeah. I'm not in control of it, of anything, and it's this weird thing that just happens where like the moment I can admit that I don't have power is like the moment that I can invite something else in to like to help me and support me. But any time that I'm just like holding on to this idea that like I'm in control, like I have the power, I can figure this out, I can do it my way, it's like there's no room for anything else to help me. There's no room for anything to support me. And so like I'm a firm believer that like anytime that I start to think that I am like doing great or I'm good or I got it, like I get down on my knees
right.
And like, you know, I say a bunch of Hail Marys, like cause I know that like, it's not me, you know, it's something else. I choose to call it God, but,
I do too. And you say, I love it, the consideration of others, because we as addicts, right? We're selfish, self-centered, fucking dickheads in the best way. Well, hold on. But it's true. When you're having consideration for others and taking action for others, we get out of that selfish, self-centered, you know, perception of this is life. Like, no, it's not about me.
Yeah.
Consideration for others.
It's definitely something that it's like an action. Like I have to do it. It's something that I have to do. It's not something that I can
get by without taking that action.
Yeah. Or even pretend, or even just like, you know, whimsically do. It's something that I have to like intentionally like actively do.
Because naturally your brain, or we as addicts, our brains go to the complete opposite. So you can't be sort of whimsical about it. You have to say, okay, brain, hear me out. I'm going to take action now. I'm going to be considerate for, like, it's almost like it's a different sort of, program.
Oh yeah. I had to reprogram my brain to do that for sure. You know, like you said earlier, like my brain, like I was an only child, so I suffer from only child syndrome where like I think I'm the center of the universe, I'm the salt of the earth, you know, and then you add on my isms to that. Like it's just, so yeah, these are things that I have to, like there's no pill that can do it for me. You know, I fully resign to the fact that like there is no man, no substance, no anything. My grandmother's tears, my mother's tears, like nothing and nobody can help me like have that switch of perspective, or like have like it's something that has to be like super greater than me. And like I definitely, you know, constantly like I'm like consciously like making this choice to be like, please take my life, please do with it as you will. Like please, you know, a prayer that I love is like, God, please like show me what you're doing show me how you're working in my life, show me what you're doing in my life, so that like I can get out of the way and let you do it, so I don't mess it up, because I'm prone to messing it up. Like, and it's like the third step prayer.
Beautiful. I have a question, because I'm big on relationships over here, being single, and I've taken like a year off dating. Yeah. And I hear it in your story, big time, and the apps and the whole addiction with just men, fix me. How are your relationships today, and where are you at with that?
So yeah, I also did, you know, did the whole no dating for a year. I actually dated myself the whole first year
God,
that I
tell us
lived
more.
in LA.
That,
Yeah, like I took myself to like, you know, it was a suggestion from somebody that I know that I love dearly. They were just like, why don't you date yourself for this, you know, get to know LA, like
you're you.
Yeah, just you and you know, like you and your higher power, whatever that is. Like,
that's
you know,
awesome.
so I took myself on dates, took myself to the Getty, like sat and ate, you know, at restaurants, like by myself, went to just went to museums, like just anywhere that I thought would be romantic. Like I was like, I want to do it by myself, you know? And then last year I ended up taking myself to Europe, you know, and like I was one of those people that was like, if I go to Paris, like it has to be romantic. Like we have to be like smoking and drinking and like walking down the Champs-Élysées, like, you know, just like this like romantic thing. And like, it was that, like, and I was by myself you know, I incorporated, you know, my spiritual practices while I was there. And like, you know, I just, again, like centered my recovery while I got there. But yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing that, you know, we can, I don't know. I don't even have time. You know, I don't think I have time to even with focusing on myself, focusing on my recovery, focusing on others. Like I just don't even have the time. But yeah, I definitely think therapy helped a lot for me. Helped me with a lot of unresolved like traumas. It also helped with, you know, all the traumas that I, you know, acquired while I was in my active addiction. Mm-hmm. So like, it's one of those things that I believe that like, okay, like my higher power relieved me of my, you know, obsession and addiction and in all those areas, it can work in this area too, you know, and my higher power is it's going to be a divine thing. I just know that it's something that like is I'll know when when it appears, you know. Amen. I think we were talking earlier about like, you know, just having conversations with people now is kind of weird because like if they're not talking like the language of the heart, it kind of just like falls like flat a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And so
absolutely,
most of the people that I've come in contact with, I can see like, okay, is this somebody that I have like a spiritual, you know, connection with, or is this just like, oh my God, you're so hot. You're so hot. Let's be hot. Like,
I have a good joke for you, but I won't say it. and I'll send it to you later.
And I would love to know about your relationship with your mother and your grandmother and your sister.
Oh, I miss them a lot. I actually just went to Puerto Rico like a few months ago with my little sister and my little brother. It was just like a sibling trip, something that like I never thought would be possible. Like, I could show up for it. You know, I could be the sober, like, what do they call those? Like the designated
driver.
Yeah. Like, or whatever.
Like,
yeah. Like I can just like show up for them and like, you know, like they wanted to party and hang out. And I was just there on the fly on the wall, like, you know, looking out for them. My grandmother, I miss her and I talk to her every day. Yeah, I need to get back to New York to go see them like pretty soon. Like it's been a while because I just been kind of just, you know, trying to get by that. I haven't made it back home yet in a little while, but they came out to visit me here like last year, which was amazing that they were, you know, when I dropped my mom off at the airport, she had like, I thought it was because I had the AC on, like on full blast. Like like her eyes started watering and I'm like, oh my God, like let me turn the AC down. She goes, no boy, it's not because of the AC. I'm crying because I never thought like I'd see you grow up, you know, like, you know, and so it was just like this like cute moment that I'll never forget. Like, oh yeah, like she's proud, you know, and like that's all I ever wanted, is to just make them proud and to, I don't put that much pressure on myself anymore about doing that because I know that like the miracle that it is that they get me in their life today. So like, I like, that's not missed on me either. Like, I'm like, oh, they understand that like just having him is the miracle. Like he doesn't need to do anything or be anything else. Like, but of course that's like my dream is to like do well enough where I can like buy my mom the big house and like, you know,
the stuff.
Make sure she never has to work again, you know, you know,
But the biggest gift
is me.
Is you.
You know, me showing up sober, them knowing that they don't have to go to sleep every night wondering if I'm like, where I am, if they're going to get that phone call in the middle of the night. And I think that helped with my fear a lot too. Like I had a lot of fear around, dying too soon or like, or just tragically or something. And now it's just like that fear is quelled because like, it's like, excuse me, as long as I go to sleep, as long as I stay sober, I know they are like, they're good. Like they're going to know that at least if I did die, like at least he died sober, like at least it wasn't on some tragic, like, in a motel room, with a needle in his arm. Like, and so that's pretty much like, yeah, it's just recovery is just the gift that keeps on giving, right? It's the
Amen. For someone listening to you, this is an incredible story. Just a couple words of like the suffering, the inspiration in the moment that like, hey.
Yeah, no, I mean, just because I got sober and I like started a recovery path, right? Like doesn't mean that my suffering is going to stop. Like I suffer, it's just so my suffering doesn't knock me off my horse anymore. My suffering I'm not jilted by my suffering. Like I'm able to experience it, and fully like go through the range of emotions of like happiness, sadness, like that's the beauty of recovery is that, we're able to like have this moment of clarity and of feeling, but just know that it's going to pass, right? Like I know that today. Like that's the one thing I do know is that no matter what I'm feeling, it's going to pass. Like whether it's like elation or misery, it's going to pass. So if you are suffering out there, just like know, you don't have to suffer alone. Pain shared is pain lessened. 'Cause like there's somebody out there that most likely has gone through what you're going through or has felt what you're feeling. Just share your full humanity with people. Like, I think that oftentimes we get so afraid that like we're going to be a burden or people are not going to understand us because like our pain is too much or our suffering is too much. And it's like, no, everyone suffers. Everyone has these, these experiences. So I hope you find the courage and the strength to like open yourself up, to be seen, to be felt, by other people.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope these stories have touched your hearts and left you with a newfound appreciation for the incredible strength within us all.
And if you found our podcast to be a source of inspiration, we'd be extremely grateful if you could take a moment to rate and review us.
Yes, review us.
Your support helps us reach more people on the path to recovery.
And while you're at it, hit that follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Remember, you're not alone. One day at a time, we got this.